So I finally did it. I took the plunge and I got myself a Push 3. If I drop this thing, that's no good. I've been researching and looking into it and spending hours of my time reading manuals, reviews, Reddit posts, you name it. I've spent the time and now I'm a proud Push 3 owner. I thought others here might learn something from my thought process. This isn't going to be a feature breakdown or comparison. This is more about my philosophy of music production and why I chose this piece of gear and other pieces of gear and what they do for me in music production. So let's jump in and have a look. I just want to quickly mention that this isn't sponsored. This is my own hard-earned money. I'm just a product consumer just like you out there. Just want you to remember that when I'm talking. These are my own thoughts and my own discussions. It was one of those purchases that just felt right. And in the end, I just came up with way more pros than I did cons and way more reasons to fit this into my little studio setup than I could find negatives. And that's what pushed me in the direction of that, no pun intended. Now, this might sound a bit hyperbolic, but music production and its technology has been accelerating so fast recently, it just feels draining, to be honest. With all this AI prompted music and people generating albums in a few sentences of prompts is like, it's a lot to keep up with at the moment. You might be thinking, why bother with a piece of gear that is just gonna make the music creation process take longer than a prompt generated album or a song? And I get it. If the end result is something that you really care about as a musician, it's dividing away from my philosophy. For me personally, the end result is just a product of all of the time that I spend making the music. In the end, I share that with the world. I share that with my audience and others who want to listen to my art, but they never see the hours and hours I spend behind the scenes. And to be honest, I really like the fact that that's between me and myself. And me making the music and doing my music production is my art. It is what I want to spend my time doing. I love reading the manual. I love learning how things work. I love deep diving into a synth and getting to know every little corner of it and why this makes this sound or what that knob does or what that function does if I modulate it with this. To me, all of these elements are exactly why I enjoy the process taking so long. I don't want the process to take 2 minutes. I want the process to take longer than it does. I love just spending all of my time just with my head in the clouds with this stuff. And I just think that that's exactly why I choose this piece of gear, is because it's so deep. Throughout my journey in music production, I've always chosen pieces of gear that are multi-dimensional, that are going to take a long time to learn, and they have a bunch of features that I can really dig into and play with. Things that aren't just going to be a 10-second throwaway piece of gear. I want pieces of gear that I feel like I can just keep learning and continue mastering until I grow old with them. Sometimes as artists and producers in this creative world, we feel like we need to get directly to the end result as fast as possible, as if the end result is this thing that we're judged by, that people only care about the end result of what we've made. But the real reality of being a musician and being a producer is that the end result is what others will see, but the part that is most important to you is the process. A woodworker enjoys sanding, even though it's this time-consuming process, because it's all about the process in itself, the romantic aspect of the process. So the DAW or DAWLESS conversation, I think, is one of the most important aspects of this decision. And the Push comes in 2 separate versions, and I bought the standalone version. The itch to get back into the DAW world has been burning for me for quite some time. I've been using the MPC now for the last 5 years plus. I've used Ableton as well for the last 10 years as my main DAW, and that pushed me closer to the Push as well because of their integration together. After so long in the DAWless world, I just had this craving to move towards a more DAW-based workflow or a hybrid workflow. I really want to be able to integrate my DAWless projects seamlessly with my DAW, and I felt like that was the major selling point for the Push, was that I could build these stems or roots of a track in the DAWless world, not having to, set up my session too much, just jump in and play. And then when I felt like bringing it over, that it would be really easy to just push it over into the DAW world and use everything I needed to use in there. So I feel really good about that. I want to move towards a more DAW-based approach and start working with computers. With the recent technology improvements, especially on the ARM chips, I just think it's worth taking advantage of. I mean, we have some really, really powerful stuff going on in computing at the moment, and just being able to take advantage of that, but then at the same time, grab my Push and go to the forest or go outside to the backyard or just take it to the couch, whatever, doesn't matter. Just get away from the screen, get away from the keyboard, and go back to the roots of just having an instrument. That's why I chose the Push, because I just felt like the integration of the two is going to be really, really helpful and really seamless. So that was the biggest selling point for me, was the hybrid nature of that setup and really integrating the computer with the box. There was a lot of competition for me when I was making this decision. Obviously, I already own the MPC, and now with MPC 3.5, I can sort of confidently say that my workflow's changed from MPC. MPC 3.5 really drew a line in the sand for me, and it sort of just made me revert on what I really like about the MPC. I'm now looking more at the MPC as being a sampler and a drum machine, and looking at what I really loved with the MPC in the beginning and going back to the roots of what made me enjoy it, and moving away from working in the arrangements and recording directly into it, because I feel like that part of the process is never going to be as fluid as a DAW, and it's never going to be as easy as working inside of Ableton. The Octatrack was as well on my radar because I have another Electron box, and I think that I love the Electron workflow and the way that they build their machines. It's another workflow choice, the Octatrack, and it's another way you can go. And certainly to me, I feel like it's the most DAWless of the three. It really, really is back to the roots of a DAWless approach there. And I love that about the Octatrack. And I think it was a close toss-up between those two, but I just decided that I was going a more hybrid direction. I was going towards the computer more. I can totally understand people who are like, dude, I want to go away from the computer. I don't want to get a computer. You're not convincing me of anything. And I'm not trying to convince you to do what I'm doing. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to explain my process so that others might learn from how I made the decision, because it's important to share how you make these decisions. I'm not going to compare and bust down features and 8 inputs here and 32 in and out over here. I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. This video is more about my philosophy of those decisions. So yeah, it was sort of a decision between the MPC, the Push 3, and really the Octatrack was the closest other machine I could put in that mix. And yeah, I just think in the end, I couldn't find a reason not to integrate a Push 3 into my setup. I couldn't find a reason why I shouldn't, and I think that's really valuable. So there you go. There's my thought process behind buying the Ableton Push 3 in 2025. Thank you so much to each and every one of those people who reach out in the comments every week, for liking and for subscribing to this channel. And until next time, have a good one.